voice of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee. It's the George Plaster Show, featuring Tennessee Sports Hall of Famers Kelly Holcomb and young gun Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in. I'm not going to lie, it's not a beautiful Friday. Well, it is beautiful because it's Friday, but there are a line of storms back toward Dixon that will be coming in here, I'm guessing, in the next 30, 45 minutes. You'll know that they mean business. A lot of red and yellow and all that kind of stuff. So rain is part of what we might be dodging here on the 2nd of May. Billy, let me also say that I'm in a good mood. You cannot change whatsoever. I played golf earlier this morning. It was an airborne spring, so much so that I intend to do it again soon.
Take that, Kelly.
No, I'm not at Kelly's level. Kelly can knock the snot out of it. I'm more of old man golf.
Hit it straight.
And the goal first is to get the ball in the air, airborne.
In the air.
Airborne.
No worm burners.
We had a 3-wood in the fairway that got in the air.
How about that?
It's been a while. That was kind of nice.
I don't hit drivers. I can't hit a driver.
It's hard
to save my life. I'm going hybrid off the tee. No matter how. I mean, if it's a par 3, I'm not hitting it. But anything longer than 230 yards, I'm hitting hybrid.
You know, I have a good attitude about golf. I've known for 40 years I suck. But I also know that when I'm able to get out in the sunshine and decent weather, I'm always in a really good mood the rest of the day. Even though I know that I'm not very good.
Yeah, now that the weather is starting to be really good, I've tried to get out more too. And yeah, I mean, the weather was just so cold and dreary for a while. I mean, it felt like for about a month. And then it rained a bunch, so you weren't able to get outside. But now that we're actually feeling spring, it feels good.
By the way, once this stuff is out of here late tonight or tomorrow, going to get considerably cooler, like highs in the mid 60s, and then on Sunday barely getting to 60.
I will say at night it still gets, like yesterday was pretty hot, but it got pretty cold at night. I mean, you gotta throw some pants and long shirts on at night if you're out.
So Kelly is not with us today. He'll be back on Monday, but we've got a really good show for you. First of all, Joe Healy from D1Baseball.com is going to join us, and we're going to get into, among other things, where do Vandy and Tennessee sit right now? Vandy feels like they're teetering where a 3-game sweep of Alabama could elevate them to national status. But if they got clobbered here at home against Alabama, they're kind of on that iffy deal. Tennessee is not iffy. But I do think for the first time in about a year and a half, there are people who believe there's a little chink in their armor. We'll get him to kind of give us his thoughts. And then, Billy, at 4 o'clock today, Jeff Fisher will join us, whether he's former Titans coach or AFL commissioner. 3 weeks ago, we had him on, and we really got into some reminiscing. And a lot of you have reached out to me who really enjoyed that interview because he and I were really pretty loosey-goosey. You know, there wasn't any need to hide anything. He's no longer the coach. It was really fun. It'll be fun today as well.
Yeah, he let loose, and it's actually AF1.
AF1.
Arena Football 1. They've revamped it, and the Cats are, believe it or not, in the middle of their season. It's a long season, and they have some long breaks in between games, but they're still playing games, and Tyler Kulka is playing well.
Young man who we had here at this studio at Ford Ice Center a couple of weeks ago continues to kill it. Good for him. Well, interesting story.
Yeah.
If you didn't see that show, he played a couple of years in Japan. I didn't even know there was football in Japan.
Me neither. Apparently Kelly did, though.
Yeah. He probably asked him for a job.
And he was only there for, what, 3 months?
In the
That's about as long as I'd expect Kelly.
In the Europe deal?
Yeah, that's about as long as I'd expect Kelly to last outside America.
Either that or they threw him out.
That could have been an option as well.
Sir, we'd like for you to leave. Leave the premises.
Get out.
Get out.
Well, we're staying here for the next couple hours, and we're talking all things, a lot of college baseball, a little bit of AF1 there with Jeff Fisher, but we got a lot in the update. It's brought to you by Lori Burnett Leland. You can find her online at mortgageladyusa.com or give her a call, 615-969-4350. As George said, we've got Vandy and Alabama tonight. It's no longer at 6:30, though. So if you're going to the game, it's at 7:30.
Oh, hold on. It was originally scheduled at 6.
6, my bad. Originally scheduled at 6. It's now pushed back an hour and a half to 7:30 due to weather. A lot of rain, some thunderstorms hit this afternoon. Severe weather warnings, a few of them. And the severe thunderstorm watch for Nashville is set for 5 o'clock tonight. It might hit us earlier than expected than that here in Bellevue, but tonight, Vandy, again, they have until 10 o'clock to start the game before they will be required to postpone it.
Which is interesting because when they get to the SEC tournament, they started games way after 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I don't think that rule applies in Hoover. But
apparently not.
It'll be a wet Hawkins Field. It'll also be wet out in Knoxville. Tennessee and Auburn will start an hour earlier than expected at Lindsey Nelson. They were supposed to be at 5:30 Central. Now they're going to be at 4:30 Central. So a couple of tough opponents for Vandy and Tennessee tonight against teams in the state of Alabama, 2 good teams out of the state of Alabama that aren't normally this good, top 15 level good in the country. So we'll talk all about that with Joe Healy. But some big NBA news. Greg Popovich will no longer coach the Spurs. Obviously, he had the stroke in November and was struggling through that, had some health issues, and he will move to a full-time role as their president of basketball operations.
First of all, Billy, this is no surprise.
Yeah.
And maybe this is me because this gets kind of personal, really close to home. Strokes are a really serious thing. Yeah. They killed my mom, a massive stroke. And in fact, the day it happened, they got me off the air and told me, get to the hospital immediately. I broke every speed law that day getting there. I never thought he would be able to return because this is serious stuff, even though this one was ruled a mild stroke. I'm kind of glad for him that he's made this decision.
Yeah.
Because to me, I can only imagine the level of grueling that an 82-game schedule is with travel. Not to mention playoffs, preseason. Yeah, their season's too long. Hockey's is probably too long. I'm just glad he's done this.
He wanted to return, but came to the conclusion he just couldn't keep up with the taxing grind of being a head coach. He had been making progress in recovery, but he will, like I said, he'll be a full-time role as the president of basketball operations. So Mitch Johnson, who was named acting head coach after Popovich suffered the stroke in November, he will permanently take over head coaching duties.
And I'm guessing he has suspected this all along.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Grizzlies have hired, I'm going to butcher this, but Tomas Isalo as their next head coach. Don't know who that is, but he replaced Taylor Jenkins as the interim in March and led the Grizzlies to the playoffs before they got swept by the Thunder. He's building around a good core. I mean, John Morant, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., they've made the playoffs for the past 5 years. For some reason, Taylor Jenkins just couldn't figure out how to put that team together. Now, John Moran has had some issues. He hasn't been playing as much as Grizzlies fans would have liked. But Tomas Isalo, the next Grizzlies head coach.
Well, let me do it a different way. I don't think Taylor Jenkins deserved to be fired, and I think there are a lot of people in the NBA who agree with that. I don't know if he'll get a job during the offseason, but I would think at the first sign of an opening next year, he'll be back on somebody's bench. He's too good not to be.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, the Grizzlies, you can't blame Taylor Jenkins. I mean, maybe a little bit, but there's a lot going on outside of just Taylor Jenkins in that organization.
Well, as somebody who watches this from 200 miles away, but keeps up with it, to me, somebody's got to get Ja Morant under control.
Yeah.
And there has to be a more serious level of something. Now, is this kid tough as nails? Yeah, he is. But there's too much stupid stuff around him. And I think the Grizzlies would be a lot better off if they could get him totally 100% focused on this instead of worrying about some of the stupid stuff that he seems to worry about.
Yeah, a lot of it is up to Ja. I mean, you get Ja straightened out, I think
because he's
be in
the
a good
franchise.
spot. Yeah.
He's the face of it.
Also in the NBA, we saw the Lakers bow out in Game 5 against the Timberwolves, but even if they would have been able to extend that series, they would have had their work cut out for them in that series and the playoffs, because an MRI yesterday revealed that LeBron James suffered a grade 2 MCL sprain in his left knee in the fourth quarter of Game 5. And I think that's
so. What would that have meant? I mean, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know what grade 2 would necessarily mean.
Well, I did see he would have been his recovery would have been like 3 to 5 weeks. I think I saw.
Oh, really? Okay, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I think that's
wow.
what I saw. So that, I mean, he wouldn't have.
So they
played.
may have been done a favor to get bounced.
Yeah, because that next game probably would have been ugly.
This wasn't going to work.
No. Meanwhile, this isn't going to work either at Iowa State. The NCAA has taken disciplinary action against 5 current and former Iowa State football staff members for placing more than 6,000 bets, totaling more than $100,000 on professional and college games, including men's and women's games for Iowa State. And get this, Chase Clark, who's no longer at Iowa State, former assistant football equipment manager, placed over 2,000 bets totaling $18,000.
Okay, but Billy, when you hear that,
and that could be
a
normal?
Series of $50 bets over weeks and weeks and weeks.
46 of them on Iowa State men's and women's basketball.
That's an issue for sure.
And you wonder, in that 2,000 and in the total of 6,000, how much of them were on Iowa State men's and women's basketball games that they know the players.
Yeah.
They know other staff members. And we've talked about this is not even close to the end of this.
With the I can't say the word proliferation of all the sports betting sites, it is just a matter of time before we have another fix of a game. It's going to happen. When it does happen, that's when I think you'll see a lot more of okay, we got to get really serious about this. Because, look, most of the sports leagues are very two-faced about it. They all sit there and say, you can't do it, but by the way, we can take their money and let them advertise. Well, if you're really serious about it, then don't accept the money.
Right.
But trust me, in the next year or 2 or 3, we're going to find out some sporting event's gotten fixed. And when that happens, then it's going to get a lot more serious.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, like, this is a normal thing that people do. it just stands out way more when you have a headline like that.
Sure.
With that much money. I did want to mention this before we go to the break, talking about Tennessee baseball earlier. Blade Tidwell, who was a really good pitcher in Knoxville, he will debut for the Mets on Sunday. They plan to promote him, one of their top prospects, to help them and try to turn it around for Willie's Mets. And we saw Chase Dolander, early in the season for the Rockies, already make his debut. So seeing some Tennessee players starting to step it up in the big leagues.
So this young man will have family at the game because a family member reached out to me saying, "Where can I get tickets?"
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
cool deal.
He was really good and was playing well in AAA.
Who was the young man we had on a couple of times?
Oh, that was Xander Sechrist.
What's happened to him?
That's a good question. I have no idea.
Yeah.
What he is doing. You know, he was a different style. He was a lefty that didn't throw all that hard.
He was Tom Glavine kind of stuff.
But was a huge part of their run in Omaha.
Yeah.
I can't even tell. He may not even be playing anymore.
Okay. We done?
Yep.
After the break, Joe Healy from D1Baseball.com will join us. The SEC is loaded with great teams. We'll get him to break it down next on 94.9 The Fan.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
At Wilson Bank and Trust, we believe you shouldn't have to choose between personal service and digital solutions. As your local independent bank, we're proud to offer the relationships and trusted service you expect, along with the tools and technology that keep you moving forward. So whether you're growing a business, buying a home, or planning for the future, we're here to help. Because this isn't just where we work, it's where we live too. Wilson Bank and Trust, here to get you there. Member FDIC.
Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com. 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
Looking for your favorite sports?
How about sports? You follow sports?
We probably have it. Just log on to the information superhighway. Oh, they don't call it that anymore?
To start, press any key. Where's the any key?
Head to theGameNashville.com.
The password. We're in.
You'll find what time your game starts and what station it's on.
Oh, they have the internet on computers now.
That's what's up. Your sports live here
What an age we live in.
on the Game Nashville Sports Network. It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
We are back. As most of you know, this is a really fun time to get into the college baseball. We're down to the home stretch, 3 weekends left on the SEC level before all of the conferences get into their postseason. The perfect time to get Joe Healy on the show. He is really wired into the college baseball scene with D1Baseball.com. Joe, thank you for taking the time.
Of course. Happy to be here. Appreciate you guys having me on.
So I'm going to go with the low-hanging fruit early, which is obviously in this area, Vandy and Tennessee. It feels to me like Vandy is teetering either way. Like a 3-game sweep against Alabama could have them sitting there going, we're one of the top 8 nationally, but a sweep the other way could have them where they wouldn't even host in the opening round. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, 100%. And they're one of a couple of teams in the SEC, Auburn being another one where Georgia, another one, really high RPIs, and the conference record doesn't necessarily match that RPI. Whereas then you have on the other end of the spectrum, Tennessee, which has a better record than those teams, but has a worse RPI. And typically those things kind of track pretty closely to each other. But this year it's inversed in a couple of instances. So I'm with you. And that's kind of been the SEC this year. Texas has separated itself pretty clearly at the top. And then there's a group of 6 or 7 teams that include all of the teams we just talked about that really seems like can beat each other on any given weekend and have, right? I think, the home road splits are pretty insane in the SEC. So I'm with you that Vanderbilt does feel a little bit on edge. If they play well, I don't want to say it's a lock, but hey, if they win 2 of 3 or sweep this series this weekend, they're really in the driver's seat to be a top 8 seed, which I certainly didn't see coming a month, 6 weeks ago. But if they lose the series, you're right. Like suddenly they're going to be scratching and clawing just to get in position to host.
So Joe, when I've looked at their everyday lineup, I don't come away just saying they're the Atlanta Braves of 3 years ago, big homer fest. Deep down, is this one of Tim Corbin's best coaching jobs to be able to have this discussion?
I think so. I think it's a couple things. One is, I think showing the ability to understand that, hey, what we were doing before wasn't working, I think shows that Tim Corbin's a guy that, for some of the criticism he's gotten of late, he's still a coach willing to change, willing to do things differently, willing to admit when things aren't going well. And he brought in some new assistant coaches. And whether we can chalk some of it up to that or not, I don't know. But I do think it does show that he is willing to be flexible and make some changes. And then, yeah, I'm with you in that you look at the lineup and it's kind of, you shrug your shoulders and, not exactly sure what you're going to get day to day. And yet this is a team that's performed well enough. If you'd have told me before the season, hey, 18 or 21 games into SEC play, RJ Austin's going to be hitting under 200 with not a single home run in SEC play, I would have thought Vanderbilt was toast. But between the pitching in some cases being better than expected, nobody saw Connor Fennell being this. The bullpen is deep and the lineup has done enough. Guys like Riley Nelson stepping up and being an impact bat have been super, super helpful and have helped offset the fact that the guy that I thought was going to make the lineup go has really not been very effective in SEC play.
What do you think's happened there?
I wish I knew, to be honest with you. There was one point where he was in a slump that was 0 for 25 or 27. And I thought, well, this is rock bottom. but it just kind of continues to struggle. I don't have any inside information, but it wouldn't shock me if he's a little nicked up, right? I mean, that wouldn't be a shock there. But sometimes these things also just happen. I will say, and I'm not saying this is a lot of it or even a good deal of it, but offense is down in the SEC this year. Run scoring, not so much, but the long ball is really down. Like you might notice that we don't have a Jack Caglione this year that's at 30 home runs already, or Charlie Condon or anything like that. Some of that is maybe just those two players were generational players. But if you look at the data, home runs are down. And so RJ Austin's never going to be a guy that hit 15, 18, 20 home runs, but he's a guy that has some power. And if the ball's not flying as much, it can affect your doubles numbers. It can affect how well you get the ball on the gap. So I think there is also some element of this is not the offensive environment for whatever reason. And I've heard some theories that are compelling and some that aren't about why offense is a little bit down from that standpoint. But for whatever reason it's happened, I do think that is an element here that we're just not in the same offensive environment we have been the last 2 years.
Joe, let me go east to Knoxville. A year ago at this point, it felt to me like, look, Tennessee's going to win the whole thing. They are that good. This year,
right after the Florida State win, that's when you could have said it.
Yeah. This year, I'm not to that point. Now, they're really good, but they don't feel like they're superhuman good. Are you kind of there?
Yeah, I think that's fair. We've talked about this a lot at D1 about how there's kind of been an air of invincibility around Tennessee, especially in Knoxville. And that there was almost like teams showed up to the park intimidated because of what Tennessee has become. And there just hasn't been that this year. Now, I will say, when Liam Doyle is on the mound, that feels like classic Tennessee. Like it just feels like teams are kind of defeated when they show up to the ballpark. But after that, it feels like teams feel confident against them. They can beat them. That series loss at home against Kentucky never happens the last several years. And there's a lot of things happening here. I think one is that, look, we can't underestimate what they lost after last year. Christian Moore and Blake Burke and Dylan Dreiling, and we could go on and on. They had just basically two players in Dean Curley and Hunter Inslee back from their regular lineup. And that's a lot to replace. And I was as guilty as anybody of this. Oh, they'll fit, they'll replace their guys. They're recruiting as well as anybody in the country right now. And that's true, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're just going to be able to recreate what they have been on the fly. And so I think that's it. The rotation is very, very good, but the bullpen's not as deep. The lineup is not as deep. The lineup doesn't scare you the way the lineup has scared you in previous years. The bottom of that lineup you can kind of pitch to. They're not as solid defensively. So there's all these little things that are just slightly less good than they were last year or even the year before. And I think that's why they are where they are. Still a very good team. Doesn't feel like a great team. But that said, other than Texas, I don't know where the great teams are necessarily. And so I do think they still have a chance to go back to back because they are extremely talented still.
Okay, you kind of answered it for me. Are they good enough to win it all? And I guess the answer is if things fall right, they still are.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I don't think there's any other team in the country that if you put them on a neutral site, whether that's Omaha or wherever, that I would say, oh, Tennessee can't beat that team. There's no one out there. Like, they could beat Texas. They could beat LSU. They could, even though they just lost that series, they could beat Arkansas. Like, pick your team. I still think they're not necessarily favorites in all those, but I do think they'd have a very good chance. And so there's a lot of, I talked to a decent number of other coaches and scouts and things like that. And there's still a pretty good consensus that Tennessee is probably the most talented roster in the country. Now, talent doesn't always mean production, as we know, but in terms of talent, there's maybe nobody better in the country. It's just a matter of putting it all together.
Joe, appreciate you taking the time. It should be fun in Nashville this weekend between Vandy and Alabama. Listen to you guys' podcast. You talked a lot about how Alabama's pitching will probably tell the story this weekend, that they've been down as of late. Playing Missouri helped them right there. And I want to get to that later with the Tigers. But what's going to tell? Do you think is that what's going to tell the story? Alabama's pitching. We know Vandy's pitched so well at home. And you mentioned Connor Fennell. Is Alabama's pitching going to be the story this weekend?
I think so, because if it doesn't pitch well, I don't really see a path forward for them to win the series necessarily. Because the offense for Alabama is also scuffling, and that is ostensibly where their bread is buttered, is offensively, but it just hasn't been as good of late. So Riley Quick, Zane Adams, both extremely talented pitchers, And when they're on, they're as good as most anybody in the SEC. But the problem is neither of them have been that good consistently. Now, I do think they're both trending in the right direction, but I still don't have a ton of conviction that we can guarantee we see that version of them in this series. So, yeah, I think if they pitch well, I think it's a competitive series from day one till the end. If they don't pitch well, I really like Vanderbilt here, especially given that it's at home.
Auburn, I mentioned earlier that Auburn and Alabama, being two teams in the state of Alabama, they've had good seasons before, but I mean, they're both top 15 teams. They were both really good last year as well and have been good really for the last few years. What is Tennessee going to see this weekend with an Auburn team? And there should be a really good pitching matchup here in about an hour, getting underway with Doyle and Auburn's guy.
Yeah, Sam Dutton for Auburn, for LSU transfer, a guy that, I talked to Jay Johnson and he said, look, we wanted to keep him. Like, we liked him, but, he just was here at the wrong time. There hasn't been a lot of space in the LSU rotation for people. And so two very different pitchers. Liam Doyle's going to, throw that, the fastball like up in the zone that's going to run, and he's going to throw majority fastball. And Sam Dutton is going to, I don't want to say junk ball it because that's derisive, but it's not nearly the same level of velocity, but he's just going to flip in that big curveball over and over and over again and dare you to time it up and dare you not to swing over the top of it. And that's a pitch he didn't really have at LSU. And that's been the key for him to be this guy for Auburn, which is, look, you take Doyle and Kyson Witherspoon and Cade Anderson at LSU and you kind of set them aside. Dutton's right there with anybody else in the conference after those guys in terms of what he's given Auburn this year. And on the other side of it is Auburn offensively reminds me a little bit of that Texas A&M team from 2022. That was Jim Schlossnagle's first team there, where the lineup doesn't necessarily, I mean, you look at it and it's like, okay, there's some nice players here, but what they do really well is they are just going to fight you tooth and nail. And so one thing to look for is Doyle sometimes is not the most efficient pitcher. Can Auburn scratch and claw and fight him to the point where you're able to get him out relatively early? I seriously doubt he's going to come out in the fourth inning or something, but can you get him out after 5 rather than after 6 or 7? I think that can be key because, like I said, Tennessee's bullpen is good, but it's not like it was last year where they just were really deep with options. They have a couple guys they really trust, and that's about it. And I think Auburn can get to them if they can get Doyle out of the game relatively early.
All right, I want to go around the league a little bit, taking a look at the national seeds as we sit right now. You mentioned Texas earlier, who, they got demolished by Arkansas last night, but still the best team in the country, best team in the league at this point. LSU, Georgia, Auburn, Arkansas, Tennessee, and Vandy. Out of those 7 teams, and there's probably an 8th, the 9th, the 10th, right? There definitely is that we'll probably see in Omaha. But how many SEC teams could you see getting to Omaha this season?
It wouldn't shock me if it's more than half the field, right? I mean, all those teams that you have on the screen right here for those that are watching, like those teams are all in that mix for sure. The math, here's the thing though, like I get asked this a decent bit, and the part of the problem is that, you could see a scenario where, the regional that LSU is hosting is opposite the regional Vanderbilt is hosting, right? Like as we have it here too in 15. Yeah. And so I think there will just be some SEC on SEC crime, throughout the tournament. So there is a cap on how many they can get, but given that a couple things here, one, the Pac-12 is no more. So it's another power conference out of the mix. The ACC is very top heavy. So I'm not really sure I see 4 really strong Omaha contenders in the ACC, and the Big 12 doesn't have any great teams. They've got good teams, not great teams. So I do think there is a vacuum where the SEC could get 4 or perhaps even 5, which would set a record for number from one conference. And also because Texas and Oklahoma have come in and immediately been excellent. Like I kind of thought maybe one of the 2 would be really good and the other is just a decent team, but they've both been teams that could, Texas obviously, but even Oklahoma, if they play well down the stretch, could easily host a regional in Norman.
You mentioned a potential, like we're in this situation, if LSU gets out of their regional, Vandy gets out of theirs, that's a Vandy LSU super. Could you imagine, and we've seen some SEC on SEC supers before, say Tennessee's at the 8, Vandy's at the 9, and this is probably unlikely, but could you imagine a Vandy Tennessee super? And Joe, how would the committee do that, especially with those 2 being in state? I mean, if that's what they have to do, you would think they might, but I mean, what's the likelihood of that?
As long as they're both in the mix to host as they are now, like it very well could happen, because the committee tries hard to avoid. I mean, obviously there's some things that can't happen in the regional round, right? You can't be in the same regional as someone from your conference. So there are all these rules. And they also try hard in regionals not to pair teams that have played each other a lot in regionals. But once you get to supers, like you can only control so much, right? Because those 16 teams are so, you split hairs to seed 1 through 16. And so you don't want to be unfair and, let's say, bump Vanderbilt from the 9 to the 10 just because we want to avoid a super between Vanderbilt and Tennessee. That just because those two teams might not win those regionals, right? So there's just too many variables that you can't control to try to set that up. So if they believe that Tennessee's the 8th best resume in the country and Vanderbilt is the 9th, they will set that up. And these things have a way of happening. I think you go back 7-8 years and A&M and TCU seem to play every year in a super regional. So like this stuff just kind of happens sometimes when you're a consistent winning program. And with these teams on our screen right here, at least the last, half decade or so, these teams have been.
George, you've been to supers before, especially in Nashville.
Oh, yeah.
Joe, you've been to plenty of them. I don't know that there is a more tense environment at the college level, like because they're on home sites. Like in March Madness, that you got double. Both fan bases can go in a super, though. It just gets so tense. I mean those games are insane.
Yeah, even the supers that in hindsight don't look like they were that competitive end up. In the moment they felt really tense. I think about I guess it was 21 that East Carolina played in Nashville.
Yep.
And, they had Gavin Williams, who was, okay, Rocker and Leiter were better, but Gavin Williams wasn't that far behind. And so there was a very likely scenario that Gavin Williams wins that game 1. And then, okay, maybe if Vanderbilt gets game 2, that would have been a nerve-wracking game 3, considering how Rocker and Leiter dependent that pitching staff was for Vanderbilt. So that just goes to show that one game in game 1 that ultimately was on a knife's edge, like was the whole thing. Like that was the whole determining thing. And once Vanderbilt won that game, it just felt like things tilted in their favor. So to your point, like a 3 games, almost anything can happen in a 3-game sample. And that's exactly why that round is so exciting.
Hey, Joe, before you go, a lot was made in the middle of March when 14 SEC teams got in the NCAA basketball tournament. What will be, in your opinion, the number on the baseball front?
I've been kind of saying I think it's going to end up as 13. Obviously, Mizzou is out. South Carolina, I think, is too far gone, barring a miracle run through Hoover, which is now single elimination. So who knows? But, I doubt that. And then I think, probably Mississippi State or Florida, one of those two, or don't look now, but like for all the work A&M has done, getting swept last week in Austin was pretty harmful for them. So I think one of those teams will probably also fall off. One thing to consider is that the basketball tournament has 68 teams, baseball 64. So it's just a little bit harder to get 14. I'm not saying that'll never happen, but it just feels like the math isn't quite there this year for them to get 14.
Hey, thank you for taking the time to come on with us. This was great stuff. It's a great time of the year for college baseball. You were really nice to do this.
Absolutely. Happy to do it. And I'll talk to you guys next week.
Thanks, Joe.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Joe Healy from D1Baseball.com. And he will be on with us for several Fridays in a row.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. There's one Friday here in May. I think it's the 16th. He won't. But especially right around regionals and the supers and the SEC tournament, he'll be ready and raring to go.
That's awesome. Okay, at 4 o'clock today, former Titans head coach Jeff Fisher will join us. I want all of you to kind of make plans to be listening. We're going to talk about a variety of things, but we're going to reminisce a little as we did 3 weeks ago, which I thought ended up being a terrific interview. So stick around. We got plenty more on 94.9 The Fan.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2025 season. Create a summer of memories at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, and more. Tickets are on sale now.
This is my buddy Stan Harrison from Apple Collision Centers. Recently, you've been talking to me about companies that have a fleet of trucks and they're always in need of repairs.
That's right, George. We understand that nobody likes to deal with the auto body repair process. We try to simplify that at our 3 convenient locations. We work with all major insurance companies. We help to ease the stress of the auto body repair process. We're located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. If you need our services, please stop by and see us.
And how convenient that we have that in the background. Now, seriously, these are good folks. They do really good work. Give them a holler.
Flat Rock Motor Club is a members-only driving resort combining a world-class racetrack with exquisite amenities. Located on 800 acres of pristine countryside in the heart of Tennessee, their elite 3.5-mile club track is surrounded by sweeping views of manicured rolling hills. The charm of Tennessee can be felt with every hill you climb. Whether your beverage of choice is sweet tea or whiskey, at their premier driving resort, you will experience a sophisticated blend of country elegance and southern hospitality. For more information, log on to flatrockmotorclub.com. flatrockmotorclub.com.
A lot of people want to define teams by singular performances.
Sports. Did he not go back into the game after that interception?
Let's get this turned around. And we're all saying, no, they don't.
Here. You thought you were on your way.
Your sports live here.
On ESPN 94.9. The Fan.
And the Game Nashville Sports Network. It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Billy, I had to laugh earlier when you brought up to Joe Healy the possibility of Tennessee and Vanderbilt playing each other in postseason. In other words, in a super regional best 2 out of 3, where at least right now Tennessee is the higher ranked of the two. So
yeah,
in your concocted deal, that would be in Knoxville. Well, that's not the first time that that's really ever happened involving Tennessee and Vandy. Now, it's a different sport. It's been 35 years ago now that Tennessee and Vanderbilt were both invited to the NIT.
Oh.
Okay. And back then, the NIT was a little smarter than they are now. And they used to look for ways to get big crowds, money that went to the NIT, the not invited tournament. It had been, I want to say, a year or two before that, MTSU had gotten to play 3 home games in Murphy Center. Boston College was one of them. Tennessee was one of them. Georgia was one of them. Okay. So even though they didn't get to the NCAA tournament, they got 2 SEC teams that never would have come to their place.
Right.
Along with whatever Boston College was at the time, which I'm guessing was Big East, although I don't know that for sure. So the point of where I'm going with this, Tennessee and Vandy both won their first round games. And all of a sudden the NIT decides that we're going to figure out which one of the two wants the home game worse. Wade Houston at Tennessee, Eddie Fogler at Vandy. And by the way, there's never been a bigger coaching mismatch in the history of stuff. Eddie Fogler absolutely mopped the floor in that deal. Anyway, in a really bitterly contested deal, Vandy finds out on a Friday that they have won the right to host.
Mm.
And they've got maybe 72 hours, probably more like 60.
Yeah.
To try to sell the place out. And they do. 15-6 at Memorial Gym. The deal was that Tennessee got out to about a 20-point lead in the game, and Vandy caught them and beat them. And it was, it was one of the weirder deals. It was, I think, the year Vandy won the NIT, but they outbid Tennessee, which seems a little bit surprising. And I don't know the actual stuff in it, but they played in the NIT here, and Vandy beat them in a big rally late.
I can't find this anywhere. I'm trying to look this up. I can't find anything on it. What year did you say it was?
90 or 91.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's how the times have changed. That certainly wouldn't have happened now. Say Vandy. Well, you never know. I mean, who cares about the NIT more, right? That's probably the question to ask yourself.
Well, both teams. Well,
because
first of
in the
all,
90s, it did matter a little bit more than it does now, right?
Probably, but there was also the whole state pride thing. Tennessee fans were pissed. Wade Houston had no clue what he was doing. For a guy that had been the lead assistant at Louisville under Denny Crum, he didn't appear to learn a thing. And Tennessee basketball was never in worse shape than when Wade Houston was there, and their attendance at home games dropped to as low as 3,500. Eddie Fogler was at Vandy, very popular, about to 2 years later take a team to the Sweet 16. They both wanted the home game because I think they both believed that whoever got to be at home was likely to be the winner.
Yeah.
You can't find it?
I can't find it anywhere. But it does make you think, what would this state feel like if Tennessee hosted Vandy in a super?
Well,
I mean, how awesome would that be?
Yeah, first of all, I think it would be great for college baseball.
Oh, that would be the biggest.
Whether it's there or here. I mean, either way, the level of excitement around it would be enormous.
Yeah.
And look, going into the year, I didn't think Vandy would be in this position. When I looked at their everyday lineup, I just don't see it. I don't see a lineup that scares people. I'm convinced this is one of Tim Corbin's best coaching jobs ever.
I'm with you. Bringing in a new hitting coach, another coach, Ty Blankmeyer, who's really good with the infielders, and their hitting approach has been different. It's been just good enough. But the pitching has been better, a lot better than last year, actually. J.D. Thompson is really good, mostly at home on Friday nights. You have Cody Bowker, who, of course, is better at home, too. But this kid, Connor Fennell, they've been throwing on Sundays, is borderline.
Did he come from Dayton?
Yes. He's borderline unhittable. And he's going on Sundays for him. And you wonder if he keeps it up, do they move him around? And Joe was talking about, because
by the way, do you hear that?
I do. There's some thunder rumbling in.
If you'll go to one of the radars in town, go to Channel 5's a minute, and then show it to people, because what is moving in between here and Franklin is a huge line, a long line of storms with a lot of yellow and a lot of red. Looks like worse toward Franklin to the south of here, but we just heard a big old rumble of thunder, and that weather update free of charge.
Thank you.
I've got another story I want to get to that's a little weird. Now, this happens all the time. Michigan State Athletic Director Alan Haller is out after nearly 5 years of leading the department. So the school has gone to interim co-athletic directors. And excuse me for a minute. Sorry about that.
You good?
Co-athletic directors, interim. One of whom is Tom Izzo.
Izzo. George needs some water.
Now, why do I think that's weird? Because it's not the first time that either a football coach or a basketball coach has been named to an athletic director position. Our own Watson Brown was the AD both at Rice and at UAB. You don't see it as often, and I'm not convinced that coaches have got the time to play that game. In the NIL world, I don't believe for a minute Tom Izzo's got the time.
Yeah, that's a little surprising. Izzo's not the first coach I would have guessed to be in that AD role. I mean, you know, you've got some other younger coaches, I think, that I would have guessed first. But, I mean, he is not the guy at his age, too. And he's actually one of the coaches. Anyway, we've talked a lot about Corbs. We know about Mike Krzyzewski and Jay Wright and the other coaches that have stepped down due to the landscape. He's one of the guys I would have thought would have said, "I'm out. I can't take this anymore." But now he's Michigan State's interim AD.
Billy, I think it comes down to what I'll call a magic moment where the older coaches have a decision to make. And the decision becomes, can I put up with this? For instance, Kevin Stallings has told me there's no way he would have put up with it.
No way.
Jay Wright said, I'm out of here. Tony Bennett, who won a national title at Virginia, said, I am out of here. So I think when some of those kind of coaches reached that magic moment, it may well be that Krzyzewski ended his Duke coaching career a little early because of it. And then there's some others. Corbin seems to be one. Rick Barnes seems to be another, who maybe have said to themselves, and I'm putting words in their mouths that are maybe not true, I'm not ready to retire yet. And so even though I don't like it, even though I don't agree with it, I will, for the short term, adapt to it.
Yeah.
And then when I decide to get out, I am done.
Well, Rick Barnes, I mean, Tony Basilius talked all about Rick Barnes and his recruiting efforts in the NIL world. He's out there competing. He loves it, is what it sounds like. Now, it could be Rick Barnes' way of kind of putting in a last-ditch effort.
It also helps that the school, Billy, they got out in front of this quicker than damn near anybody. And they've got the money. And so I don't think Barnes is having to, notice this verb, barnstorm for money. I think it's there for him.
Yeah.
I think it's been easier for him than it's been for a lot of coaches.
I do want to mention this before we go to the break. According to On3 Sports, President Donald Trump is considering an executive order that could increase scrutiny on NIL after meeting with Nick Saban. Executive order. That's pretty big.
You know what? That might be one of the first things we talked to Jeff Fisher about.
I mean, this just came across. That's no small deal.
Wow.
And that's the guy to meet with if you're going to meet with anybody if you're President Trump.
I'd say he's high on that list.
Yeah.
Okay. After the break, we'll go stat of the day, where we have not exactly killed it in recent weeks. And then former Titans coach and now AF1 commissioner Jeff Fisher will join us to start the 4:00 hour. So it will not be dull. This is an interview you'll want to hear. And this is 94.9 The Fan.
Hey, this is Andrew Allegret, voice of Vanderbilt baseball. Hope you can join us all weekend long from Hawkins Field. It's a massive SEC showdown. Number 15 Vanderbilt, number 18 Alabama. All 3 games starting on Friday. 102.5 The Game.
Vanderbilt Athletics lives here on the Game Nashville Sports Network.
Evan, Canty, and Michelle are unsportsmanlike.
Even if you thought that you had to make the move because Luka Doncic was available, if you don't sign Luka long term, this is a massive failure. But even if you do sign Luka, post LeBron James, I don't know that Luka is a guy that you can rely on in terms of building around and compete for a championship.
Unsportsmanlike. Weekday morning starting at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN2. This is Joe and Q.
Average 30 points in quarters 1 through 3. That's great. But what are you doing when it's money time? I need my closer. Are you not my closer? Are you just might get me there and then someone else take over? You can't be that guy and be a superstar. You could be that guy and be a good player, but not a superstar. Luka's a superstar, so he should be better than that. I not really have a problem with JJ coming out saying we need to be in championship shape. He's not wrong.
Joe and Q. Weekdays from noon to 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. Hey, did you miss Clinton and Friends?
Experience matters. JJ didn't show a ton of it in this particular series. Now, don't get me wrong. JJ has had an extremely rough year. His house burned down. That's a thing that happened. But as far as X's and O's, man management, and the rest is concerned, left a lot to be desired.
Clinton and Friends, weekdays from 10 to noon Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. This is Freddie and Harry.
Now that the Lakers are done, how can they make sure they get undone? And how much money are they willing to commit to Luka Doncic? Oh, he's going to get the max money. There's no doubt about that. But is he trustworthy enough for you to say as a Lakers organization, we're going to commit $350 million to a guy that Dallas said, we love him, but we don't love him enough to give him the keys to our kingdom?
Check out more from Freddie and Harry weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
This Mother's Day, give her something that makes life a little easier and her favorite moments even better. Whether she's the family chef, the go-to host, or the queen of cozy movie nights, you'll find a gift she'll love at Electronic Express. From small appliances for quick weeknight meals, to outdoor essentials for effortless entertaining, to smart TVs for the ultimate binge watch session. We've got that. Shop Mother's Day gifts that turn moments into memories, in store or at electronicexpress.com.
Your sports live here. WBUZ HD3 Laverne. All around the world on the Game Nashville app. We are the Game Nashville Sports Network. ESPN 94.9. The Fan.
It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Coming up, we're talking with Jeff Fisher, AF1, Arena Football 1 commissioner, also, of course, former Titans and NFL head coach. Talk a variety of topics. First stat of the day brought to you by Apple Collision Centers. You can find them in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. Give them a call, 615-754-9800, or log on to the site. That's applecollisioncenters.com. All right, we're going baseball today. Jose Ramirez became the second switch hitter to achieve 250-plus career home runs and stolen bases. Who was the other? A little hint, he was named the manager of a team, but never managed them.
Yeah, and it's, oh gosh. This is going to kill me because he never got to manage the Mets. He was a former Houston Astro.
Yep, you're on it.
I can't remember the name. I keep thinking Carlos Delgado, but that's not it.
It's not Delgado.
No, it's Carlos something. I don't remember. I just know that it never happened. Lay it on me.
It's Beltran.
Carlos Beltran. So
what happened there?
Well, first of all, Carlos Beltran was a massive Atlanta Braves killer. In the playoffs in 2005, he absolutely destroyed them. hit about 5 home runs in that series. I know because I went to 2 of the games. I was not a big Carlos Beltran fan because of that.
No surprise there.
Okay, so I at least got the first name right. That's better than we've been doing.
That's better than nothing.
So we now are officially into the 4 o'clock hour from our digs at the Fordyce Center in Bellevue. There is some really serious stuff moving in here right about now, weather-wise. Even Jeff Fisher, who once parted the Red Sea around one of his celebrity softball games in an act that I, to this day, do not understand, he joins us by phone. Jeff, even you could not stop what's coming in now.
Well, actually, George, I'm just a tad bit to the west of you right now. And so, yeah, I'm in the middle of it. So to the listeners that are in this area, yeah, tune in. We got some severe thunderstorm warnings going on. This thing's going to go through pretty quick, but we won't be out of the way, because I think there's one more coming. Anything more you'd like me to add about the weather, George?
No, that was beautifully done. I was happy for you that night that one deal went toward Kentucky and the other went toward Alabama. What I did not enjoy was the amount of ribbing through the person that helped direct that game, the late, great Rick Regent. I never heard the end of that.
Yeah, because you were adamant. You were just kind of, oh, what are we going to do? We're not going to play this game. I go, no, I think we got a chance, and we'll take care of it. I think Rick heard the conversation, so I had to do that a number of other times on the practice field. And then there's times when it just doesn't work out, and you got to go in for a little bit.
Well, you definitely had some Midas touch back then. So you have become a problem solver as a commissioner, and you've had to, kind of bob and weave a little bit. I think I'm right. Are the Cats not ending up scheduling another home game or two that really hadn't gotten out yet?
Well, yeah, that's true. There's a little bit, it's interesting. The schedule, when we put the schedule together, I think we probably did it a little bit too soon, but you have to do that because you need to secure your venues and your arenas. And so there was some change and a couple of misunderstandings. So you got to be flexible, but all the games are ahead. We got 3 games this weekend, and then as far as what the Cats are going to be doing, we're going to be playing on Saturday night, the 24th of May, against the Oregon Lightning at 5 p.m. And we're going to be talking an awful lot about that over the next couple of weeks leading up to that game. We're really excited about what we've got going. We've got some an ownership team being formed with some notables that we're going to be releasing next week. And then we really, as far as the actual, the football team, they're under Coach Arbette. They've really, really improved, and it's been fun to watch them. So they had just but 1 week of training camp before they started the season, and he's done a great job. He's got this team ready to play. So we got a good team. The league itself, George, we've got we're looking at playoffs and different scenarios, and so. Rather than finishing last year like we did at a neutral site, we're thinking about, having, as long as there's availability, just having that championship game go to the number 1 seed.
Jeff, it looks like you've gotten a quarterback whose past quarterback history includes Japan. I didn't know there was football in Japan. What have you seen in this young guy, Tyler Kolka, who seems to be the spark plug for the Cats?
Well, before I get into Tyler, I just want to compliment, Coach Arbette and his staff. The quarterback in the indoor game, the 50-yard game, the characteristics are just a little bit different. And, the ball has to come out really, really quick on time, need to know, what's going on downfield like any other quarterback. But it's just a little different. I think when I got into it, well over a year ago, I thought, boy, because we've got that mobile quarterback, we've age in the NFL, thinking, man, I bet you these mobile quarterbacks would be great in the Arena League. Well, it's good to be able to extend plays and things like that, but it's a passing game primarily, and the ball's got to come out. And so Tyler understands that. And there's been some notables. You can mention his name if you want, that came to the NFL from the 50-yard game. And it's that type of quarterback, the type of athletic ability where you can move around a little bit, but boy, get the ball down the field, throw it away, keep drives alive, and all that kind of stuff. So Tyler's done that. He's done a really good job protecting the football and putting the ball in the stands if he needs to. And he's developing relationships with his receivers, and that's always important. And sometimes that takes time, even in a game on a shortened field.
What would be, Jeff, because I'll admit I didn't even know there was such a thing until we had him come to this studio a couple of weeks ago. What would the level of football in Japan be equivalent to in the States?
I'd say probably, how about a 3 or 4A high school team?
You being serious?
Well, I think you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
I think you'd really be surprised. The game's taken off. We've known that for a long time, George. Just, the NFL was way ahead, and with the games overseas and everything, it's taken off. And it's interesting. Since I got into, over the last 4 or 5 years, just trying to help leagues, because I love the game. People are going, what are you doing? Why aren't you out fishing and hunting? And I love the game, and I what the game does for the players, and and everything. And so it doesn't really matter, what level it is. But what I've come to find out is there's a lot going on outside of the norm. There's coaches that have made careers out of coaching in alternate leagues and travel the world, and whether it's NFL Europe or it's this semi-pro league or that semi-pro league, and they get to travel and they get to coach football and meet people, and it's really pretty cool what they what's out there. Now we have, when I say we, I'm talking about Arena Football One. There's interest from outside the United States, and that's one thing that's very intriguing to the league and the management group.
So we're talking with former Titans head coach Jeff Fisher, and I didn't know when we scheduled to do this that we would have this piece of news hit the wire about 5 minutes before you joined us. Billy, read this again, because this is the perfect thing to get Jeff into.
Yeah, so President Donald Trump is considering an executive order that could increase scrutiny on NIL after meeting with Nick Saban.
So, Jeff,
wow,
in your with your ability to problem solve, and God knows in the job as commissioner you've had to do a little bit of this. If somebody asked you to help fix this whole transfer portal, NIL stuff, how would you start to go about it?
I would. Okay, let's say, George, you are the FCS. You're an FCS team A. Pick it.
Okay.
And I am a group of 5, or better yet, I'm in the SEC. Okay. And I sign one of your players, and I offer him $2 million. Okay. What happens on your end? You lose the player. You develop the player. You brought the player and you recruited him. You brought him into school. You're beginning to turn this young man into a grown man, and now all of a sudden he's gone for $1 million or $2 million, and you're left with nothing. All right. And now you got to replace him, but you don't have the money to compete out there with the big boys. So what do you have to do? And so what happens over time is that your program is diminishing. You have no money. And any money that you have, you're trying to save players and go out and, you're going to offer a player $500 when someone else can offer that same player $1 million. So the answer to it, in my mind, is that the SEC team needs to compensate the FCS team for every player, or so the buyer, okay, needs to compensate the program and the university that they're buying their football team from. And at least you put money back into the athletic department, into athletics, into the football. At least these small programs will have a chance. They got no chance right now because if they need a new stadium, any money that they're raising is going to go to NIL just to try to win a game. And so in my mind, I mean, that's not a big deal. Now, granted, I think, so what happens if you're the FCS team and now you go out and sign another FCS player? Are you responsible to compensate them? Things need to get worked out from that standpoint. But I just think that if it's they're not going to be dramatic changes, at least that allows the storied programs to continue to be able to compete because they're struggling. And as I know, what it's doing to coaches. So coaches aren't. It's not the lifestyle. Not that they didn't get into it. It's changed. It is non-stop, and you got no control unless you got empty pockets. So it's not. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's healthy for the players. So what about school? What about the days when you used to step on campus and, as a freshman and have to earn what how important relationships are and respect for teammates and respect for this and the importance of school and discipline and all those things? No, this is about how much you're going to pay me. That's what it's become.
So, Jeff, you've got the classic case.
George, they don't care. They don't. It's not. It's not like it used to. Hey, I want to go in there, good staff, and have and learn and develop. And how good's the weight coach? And because I ultimately want to have a shot at the NFL. But now, none of that matters now. The only thing that matters is how much you're going to pay me. So
Jeff, you've got the classic case here with your son now on Eddie's staff at Bowling Green. It's the classic, not that it's happened, but Tennessee gets a player from Bowling Green. They've got the money to do it. They get him. Bowling Green gets nothing. It's the perfect example of what you're bringing up. Why is the compensation part for the school that gets screwed over not being brought up more?
I have no idea, George. I've been talking about it for a couple of years, but I have no idea. You can work it out. There's a lot of smart people out there that can sit in a room and figure that thing out to where it's fair, where it's equitable, and where it makes sense. And what most important, or what are the unintended consequences of it? And can you be flexible? Because you're not going to have a perfect system, but at least work that way to at least save some of these programs. You talk about Bowling Green, they graduated a bunch of players last year, or seniors. They lost seniors. And now they got to fill a roster with young players, which is hard. Okay. After you lose that, you're in a transition period. So You want to sign, you want to try to go out and maybe bring some kids in that can help you. You don't have a whole lot of money. No, they're not going to come. So it's going to take teams now, not the, this team, the Bowling Green program, I believe, won 7 or 8 games and went to a bowl game. But you graduate a lot of players, and then all of a sudden you're stuck in this new world. You can be looking at a rough year, and maybe a rough couple years until you're able to rebound. But how are you going to rebound if you don't have the funds to compete within your conference? Then you're going to have to go out and pay for kids, and you don't have the money. So something needs to be done. But I think at least that will allow these smaller programs and the lesser programs, to do some improvements to their stadium rather than have to pay for their football team.
Yeah. I want to hopscotch 2 or 3 other places before we end this. I don't get the opportunity very often to do this with somebody who's experienced all this. So when these players who have just been drafted arrive at their various teams, Jeff, is there a point a week, 10 days into seeing them where you privately knew, okay, this one is going to hit it big, this one's never going to see the light of day? Is it that simple?
Well, you're saying, does that happen in the first 10 or 15 days? Yeah, I'd hope not, because then you really made a mistake. But you're going to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. You understand what their strengths and what their weaknesses are, and you should have a really good read on all the prospects that come in the door for the first time. And it's a matter now. Visualize this: you got a group that's coming in, and then you got your group that's been there, all excited about the changes and getting moving forward in the off-season program. Your vets and your rookies. So you got to blend them, but you can't put them in together too soon, because the vets are, in my mind, in a lot better shape than the newcomers. So you've got to make sure that, and to avoid injuries and things like that, you've got to bring your new group up to speed. And I think it takes a couple, 3-4 weeks before you blend them together. So I think, but to answer your question, I mean, I would hope that everybody's done their research. Now, if they're signing college free agents and you don't know what kind of kid he is, but we're going to give him a shot, I think those days are over. Everybody has a lot of information on a lot of these kids, and that this kind of dovetails into the quarterback thing. If there's any positive, maybe the only positive side with respect to NIL, with respect to the players being happy because they're getting paid so well, is that what it's done to the quarterbacks, because you've had quarterbacks, one that's here in town now, that's been in 3 different programs. And so you have three different sources of information. How was he in this system? How was he in this locker room? Well, if you haven't changed schools, that was the way you are. But you can verify things, and you got a lot more people to talk to about the character issues and all those other issues, the learning, the leadership, what's he like in the locker room, on the field, da 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 da. You got 3 different teams to talk to, and so you're going to have a lot more information nowadays because of that than you did in the past.
Jeff, this one is going to come from a speaking deal that I did recently, where somebody out in the audience said, what are some of the fun things you've gotten to do because of what you do for a living? And I brought up 2 or 3 different things. And one of them was obviously your all's run to the Super Bowl, where I can remember going to Indy, and on Friday I got to see the Lakers and the Indiana Pacers at Conseco. Eddie goes wild in the second half. You all advance. Of course, this is a week after the Music City Miracle and the crazy stuff at the Wild Horse afterwards. Then there was the weekend at Amelia Island before going to the old Gator Bowl and watching you all beat Jacksonville. And then, unlike most weeks, there wasn't the 2-week gap. We had to get right to Atlanta to get on Radio Row for that week's coverage. So the person asked me, did you all think they were going to the Super Bowl that year? And so I'm going to ask you kind of that same thing. If I had seen you that June, 6 months before it happened, and I said, Jeff, does this team have a shot to get to the Super Bowl? What would your answer have been?
Well, I would have said I'm more concerned with getting the playoffs right now because our owner said in an article during summer vacation before he came back to work that this was a playoffs or whatever he called. What do you call? How do you phrase it?
Was it playoffs or bust?
Yeah, playoffs or something. Bust or playoffs or else or whatever it was. It was like, hey man, thank you, Mr. Adams. I'm trying to get the playoffs every year. But so at that point I would have said, no, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna make the playoffs. So I like Nashville way too much. So I just, what we were doing was we were putting in, and so much of all the credit goes to Floyd, but we were putting together a pretty good team while we were just moving all over the place. And it was just, it appeared to be just a train wreck. It was not easy to move a franchise. And, but while we were doing all that, we were putting together a really good team. My big concern, going in was, man, if we could just win that first playoff game, because then we would be really hard to beat because we didn't have a lot of playoff experience on the roster. And and that first one is always the toughest in those situations. So as it came down to it, we needed a miracle to get through that first one. But after that, I felt pretty good. And, that second win that we had up there in Indy, that was the team that won the division that year. So, it was a pretty good matchup.
Man, it was, it was one of the things that was easy to rattle off to the guy. Look, here are things I've gotten to do that, class of 77 Battleground Academy, the rest of them didn't get to do. So I've been pretty fortunate. And then he fired did you all think they were going to get there? And so I thought I'd throw it at you. And you did a good job with the answer.
Well, let me follow up this by saying I was class of 76 at Taft High School. I never thought I would have had the experiences I had either, George.
Yeah.
So we're both blessed, man. It's been great. That's what sports and athletics does in competition, man. It blesses a lot of people. And that's why I can't get out of it. That's why I'm so fired up about what's ahead for all these young guys that it might have a chance to play in the indoor world, and maybe someone will take a look at them. But
I think you're right. I mean, I think that's exactly what this league is kind of designed to do, is give them another chance. And so May 24th, you all are back home. Jeff, I don't know what you're having to dodge 8 miles from here, but give me one last weather forecast.
Well, the wind right now is out of the southwest, and right now it looks like it's about 20 here in Kingston Springs. The rain is starting to deteriorate, but there's still more coming.
Yeah.
So make sure you keep an eye on it.
Hey,
when we're not prepared, things happen. George, thanks so much for the time.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time, Jeff. Talk to you soon.
All right. Take care.
That's former Titans coach Jeff Fisher. Billy, let me rumble through what that month was like.
The Super Bowl?
Yeah. So the Music City Miracle happens, and it was a Saturday morning at 11:30 in the morning, game time. And we started our pregame activities at the Wild Horse at 7:30. By 9 o'clock, there are 3,000 people there. This city is as stoked about that event as you could ever imagine. Then we all know what happens afterwards. And Frank Wycheck, who had been, part of that play with the throwback part, he had told me he was going to come to the Wild Horse, and he did. And when I brought him out on stage, it was the damnedest thing I have ever heard. It was insane. It was a rock star ovation. Then a week later, they're going to Indy, and we're taking the show to Indy. And we've got 800 people in this hotel lobby. I don't know where we stayed in Indy, but it was obviously where most of the Titans fans were. And they came down and watched our show. And they're cheering and hooting and hollering. And later that night, we went to Conseco Fieldhouse. The Lakers were in the middle of something like a 30-game winning streak, and the Pacers beat them. And, I mean, we were at the top of Conseco. How the hell we got in there, I'll never know, but we did. Then a week later, Amelia Island, which is way too nice for our show. It was kind of off the beaten path from Jacksonville. Amelia Island is beautiful. We get to Jacksonville on Sunday and, for the game. And obviously Derek Mason has what is a punt return off a safety that blows that game wide open. Well, the team flies home, but we have what I'll call ground transportation. And we know that there is an ice storm issue in Georgia.
Yep.
And so we make the decision that we're going to stop somewhere, I don't remember where, in South Georgia. We actually listened to when the Titans returned home, all the fans were invited to go to Nissan Stadium for what was going to be, the presentation of the trophy. And we listened to it on WLAC 1510 on the AM dial, which is a directional clear channel. We're down in South Georgia dodging God only knows what. And then on Monday, we drove back to Nashville, unpacked, then repacked, and went to Atlanta Tuesday morning. And that's what that was like. And so part of where I'm going with it, in a 40th BGA reunion, I came to the conclusion, look, there are people who made more money.
Yeah.
But absolutely nobody got to have more fun.
Those are great memories.
Yeah.
I mean, when we don't know if the Titans are ever going to make a Super Bowl again. You would think they do. Hopefully they do in your lifetime, in my lifetime. I mean, but they had to make it for that to happen, right? For that whole trip. So that was once in a lifetime.
Could be. Probably is. Anyway, I don't know quite how we got. Well, I do know how. Somebody asked me about it at a civic club that I spoke at recently. Anyway, we're going to open up the phone lines. Now, I know because I was out in it earlier how many people cheat and go home at 2 o'clock on Friday. I'm well aware y'all are doing that. But I also know there are others of you out there who are not cheating, who are out there in drive time, and I want to hear from you. We're going to open the phones. I don't care where you go with it. I'm looking for some red-blooded Americans who have something in sports they want to get into. 615-553-0933. Again, 615-553-0933. If you want to text us something, how do they do that?
Chat room is open on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. It's really easy, specifically on YouTube. It's just to the right of the screen. If you're on a laptop, if you're on your phone, just swipe up. You'll see the comment section. You can do the same on Twitter and Facebook. We'd love to hear from you.
Okay, we'll go to the break. I implore red-blooded Americans, join the show. Do it now. This is 94.9 The Fan.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun. If you are paying too much for your health insurance, you know what? You need to contact the folks at Pancoast Benefits. Pancoast works with businesses and individuals to tackle the high cost of health insurance. Whether you're a business owner, large or small, self-employed, between jobs, or over the age of 65 and in need of a Medicare plan, Pancoast can help. They make understanding your benefits less difficult and more personal. So check them out today, pancoastbenefits.com, or call them at 615-292-3400.
Flat Rock Motor Club is a members-only driving resort combining a world-class racetrack with exquisite amenities. Located on 800 acres of pristine countryside in the heart of Tennessee, their elite 3.5-mile club track is surrounded by sweeping views of manicured rolling hills. The charm of Tennessee can be felt with every hill you climb. Whether your beverage of choice is sweet tea or whiskey, at their premier driving resort, you will experience a sophisticated blend of country elegance and southern hospitality. For more information, log on to flatrockmotorclub.com. Flat Rock Motor Club is a members-only driving resort combining a world-class racetrack with exquisite amenities. Located on 800 acres of pristine countryside in the heart of Tennessee, their elite 3.5-mile club track is surrounded by sweeping views of manicured rolling hills. The charm of Tennessee can be felt with every hill you climb. Whether your beverage of choice is sweet tea or whiskey, at their premier driving resort, you will experience a sophisticated blend of country elegance and southern hospitality. For more information, log on to flatrockmotorclub.com.
Hey, this is Andrew Allegretta, voice of Vanderbilt baseball. Hope you can join us all weekend long from Hawkins Field. It's a massive SEC showdown. Number 15 Vanderbilt, number 18 Alabama. All three games starting on Friday. 102.5 The Game.
Vanderbilt Athletics lives here on the Game Nashville Sports Network. It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Billy, one other before we go to the phones. Super Bowl week in Atlanta, a big ice storm. Yep. And the weather in Atlanta was awful, absolutely dreadful. And for about 3 days, it was, it just really, it just felt like rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. It really wasn't all that much fun. I remember we were so desperate to get out of there. We went to a Georgia Tech Wake Forest basketball game on Thursday night. And then Friday during the day, Bud Adams had sort of the moment in the sun where the owner gets to speak. And I'll just say this. I love Mr. Adams, but there was no amount of prep that you could do that would see to it that he wouldn't say something stupid.
I would have loved
Oh
to
my
have been a
God.
fly on the wall.
When
on
he
that one.
started talking about Billy Cannon and call girls, I was like, "Oh my God, you got to be kidding!" Okay, what's the text first?
Somebody on YouTube really enjoy the show. Is it just me, or when Kelly is on giving Billy hell? Kelly reminds me of the older brother on Home Alone.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's good.
That's beautiful. You might want to save that
What's
and
his
rerun
name?
it.
Buzz. I think that was his name, Buzz.
Wow, I love it. Okay, let's start with Tony on line one. By the way, a couple of lines still open as we look for red-blooded Americans. Tony, what do you got?
Hello, George. Hello, Billy. And it's ironic because I was going to say to you, Billy, that I hated that Kelly's not going to hear this, but if you ever do hook up and hitch up with a little girlfriend of yours and y'all get married, Amelia Island, where George was talking about, is a great place for a honeymoon.
I'll write that down.
Where I had my honeymoon back many, many years ago. And George's St. Simons, Jekyll Island, Amelia Island, they're all down on the east coast of Georgia. And it's a good place to go. Boy, that's a big clap of thunder.
Yeah.
But it's a good place to go for a good honeymoon. So put that in your back pocket. You'll always have that little
Thanks,
nugget
Tony.
there.
I'll do that.
I remember when we got to Amelia Island, unlike Indy, there weren't any Titans fans down there. And I was like, what are we doing here?
So how far off from Jacksonville is that?
Tony, what would that be? About an hour and a half?
Yeah, it's not far. It's not far. And yeah, just go up and down the East Coast right there. It's pretty fun. It's a good drive, a pretty drive. George, are you touching on the with the Titans back in that special year? When y'all were stuck at Amelia, of course, the team got back to the airport.
Yes.
And Billy, everybody in Nashville converged on Metro Nashville Airport. And this was before any, the 9/11 stuff. And, of course, they had to open up the whole concourse to the airport. People were literally hanging from the rafters. I was there. They had opened up the gates to all the parking, and people were meeting. When the plane pulled up, people met them and walked back with the players. I mean, I walked out of the airport with Eddie George and Steve McNair. I mean, everybody was just walking out with all the players.
Yeah.
That was unseen. They had to open up the gates to let people into the airport, and then they had to open up all the gates to let the cars and the traffic get out. I still have my parking stub when I went to that airport, and it was unbelievable on their return flight and the chaos that did ensue after that. It was a memory I'll never forget.
I wish I'd been on that plane.
And George, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't that the only Super Bowl that's they played from the championship game the very next week go play the Super Bowl?
I can't prove that. I don't have it in front of me. There have not been many.
And I've always thought that was the one only that they went straight from an AFC championship game into the Super Bowl. There was no 2-week delay or nothing like that. So, but that was something. Guys, tonight's baseball game, I believe it's going to be those, remember those songs, Slip Sliding Away? I think that's what might be happening tonight on some ballparks around the South. I don't know.
You think they get that thing in here starting at 7:30?
It's going to be at 7:30, but it wouldn't surprise me. And I think the NCAA has a rule, or maybe it's the SEC, if they have to push it back. I don't think they can start a game later than, is it 10 o'clock? Or is it 10 Eastern time?
It's 10.
10 o'clock Central. Yeah,
I want to say.
I knew there was some rule that they couldn't start. So if this keeps up, they might try to push that limit on that rule right there. So, guys, have a good weekend, and y'all got a favorite horse in the Derby tomorrow? Y'all think it's going to be a wet one or a dry run?
Oh, I think it's going to be big time wet.
I do too. So
I don't have a clue who wins, but then even if I knew, I wouldn't know.
On another show of who might be the top horses, but I don't have a clue. So, all right, guys, I'll leave you alone. Good, let's get to another call. Have a great weekend, guys.
Sure,
See ya.
you too. Thank you. Okay, what's the news out of the Derby?
Well, Grande has been scratched from the Kentucky Derby. That was earlier today, reducing the field to 19 horses. Owner Mike Rapoli said, "We are shocked and confused why this decision was made now. We were given no real explanation why Grande was scratched 36 hours before the race."
Well, he's the owner. Why doesn't he ask?
I don't know. But 36 hours before, what had to happen for
I
that
don't
to
know.
happen?
Don't know.
I mean, you wonder. Failed drug test. We saw that with trainer Bob Baffert, who is actually making his return after being banned for 3 years.
Real quickly before we go back to the phones, the line of rain looks like it extends to about Dixon, but after that, there appears to be a good window for hours, at least right now. So we'll see. Jeff in Murfreesboro, you're up next.
How's it going, George?
Good. Hope you're good.
Good. I just want to say a couple of things. Tonight, Middle Tennessee's playing a couple series on their campus. The game with Jacksonville State, they moved back to 7 o'clock because of the weather, and they're playing a series with UTEP in softball. They moved that back to 8 o'clock tonight. Both of them's on campus, so they moved them back because they're supposed to start at 6, and they pushed them back because of the weather. So they're going to start if anyone wants to come watch some college baseball and softball night. They can do it in Murfreesboro. Come on the Murfreesboro campus and watch. But and George, I need this to Fisher's interview, but he was talking about MTSU or Tennessee coming to Murfreesboro and playing. That ain't ever happened. The only time it ever happened is in women's basketball when Enzo, he's still coaching, and Son was alive. And they respect her. Of course, they've been friends for a long time before she passed and everything, and he still respects her like a lot of people do. She's a great coach. But they had to play like 4 times over her, or 3 or 4 times over in Knoxville before she even come over and play us once. They ain't never going to come over and play some men's basketball. The only time they ever did was the NIT. They had to do it then. And they got their butts beat. Don DeVoe, it was a Bruce Stewart beat Don DeVoe and all his team sent them back to, and they beat Georgia the next game. Somebody, Hugh Durham coach or something. Was I Willie Anderson? I heard him. He was pretty good. They beat them too, and they lost.
Really good.
They lost to Boston College in the quarter. They could have went to the Madison Square Garden, but they lost to Boston College in the quarterfinals that year. And then the second time they played them, they had to go to Knoxville and play in the NIT. And Kermit Davis beat them. After how many years ago before he left, went to Ole Miss, and then they played Minnesota in the one game in the quarterfinal when Tubby Smith was there. Played out here in Murphy Center. My father went. They lost that game in the quarterfinals. They've been in the quarterfinals twice in the NIT in the history. But Tennessee basketball and football ain't never come here either. So on the way you get to where Tennessee can just come here and play. They ain't enough piles of money. There'd be a pile of money from here to Osaka, Japan. They ain't enough money to pay them. Come up to play us here. We ain't got enough money or enough anything else to. I mean, they're never going to do it. It take an act of President Trump executive order to let us come here and play. That's what it takes. if they followed it, that's what. If we ain't got no president, now we got a king in there. Now we ain't got no president. So we're all aware of that. But and everything. But no, it ain't going to be. I mean, we're George. Since I've been living, we're known as Little Middle. Don't you compete with these big teams. Don't you try to do it. You can't beat them. See, tomorrow, George, we're going to Knoxville in the tennis tournament. We're going to play Duke the first round. If we do, we play Tennessee again. They played them once this year and lost to them. A few times they've got the second round. They ain't done it. But see, I've been told all my life, don't you play, you can't beat these people. But one day they're going to do it. One day they're going to bust through. And they're going to be a big university. They might be in the SEC. Whenever I'll be gone. I won't be here. You won't be either. Billy might be around. That's about it, though. We'll laugh out too. But y'all have a good one, guys. Enjoy the weekend. I wish Kelly was there, but that's the way it is. Kelly's the best quarterback to ever step foot on that campus, and he knows it. So y'all have a good weekend. See y'all.
Okay, see ya.
I love the middle pride. I love it.
So I actually went to the BC game that, had they won it, would have gotten them to the New York part. Yeah. And I went to Tubby's deal when he was at Minnesota, and they weren't able to get either one of them, but still, this is one of the things, Billy, that really bothers me about the era that we're in right now.
Yeah.
Is that the middles and whoever you want to throw out there, North Texas, Arkansas State, whoever, those teams are being left for roadkill. And what bothers me is that nobody in the college athletic world is standing up for them at all and saying, wait a minute, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Nobody's doing it. The level of greed right now is the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's a shame, but I think Jeff makes a good point. Jeff Fisher, that is, and Jeff too. But I like Jeff Fisher brought up the fact that there's no compensation being had right now. And who was it? The one of the HBCU coaches brought that up too. Why not? If you bought a player from an HBCU, a Group of 5 school, anybody lower than a Power 5 program or Power 4 program, you should have to pay that school.
During the break, find the Trump Nick Saban story. See if there's a little more detail. Let's talk about it when we come back. This is 94.9, The Fan.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2025 season. Create a summer of memories at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, and more. Tickets are on sale now.
Braves game might not get played, though. This is my buddy Stan Harrison from Apple Collision Centers. Recently, you've been talking to me about companies that have a fleet of trucks, and they're always in need of repairs.
That's right, George. We understand that nobody likes to deal with the auto body repair process. We try to simplify that at our 3 convenient locations. We work with all major insurance companies. We help to ease the stress of the auto body repair process. We're located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. If you need our services, please stop by and see us.
And how convenient that we have that in the background. Now, seriously, these are good folks. They do really good work. Give them a holler.
At Wilson Bank and Trust, we believe you shouldn't have to choose between personal service and digital solutions. As your local independent bank, we're proud to offer the relationships and trusted service you expect, along with the tools and technology that keep you moving forward. So whether you're growing a business, buying a home, or planning for the future, we're here to help. Because this isn't just where we work, it's where we live too. Wilson Bank and Trust, here to get you there. Member FDIC. Buying a home, or planning for the future, we're here to help. Because this isn't just where we work, it's where we live too. Wilson Bank and Trust, here to get you there. Member FDIC.
Two total screw-ups of humongous proportions.
Sports. We're not living in an era where perfection is necessary.
They thought they were a championship contending team.
Here, we told you not to do this.
Your sports live here.
On ESPN 94.9.
And the Game Nashville Sports Network. It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Okay, in the last minutes, a story has broken that may not on Friday night get a lot of attention, but I got a feeling by Monday or Tuesday of next week, it might. So, Billy, run with it, and let's then talk about it.
After meeting with former Alabama coach Nick Saban this week, President Donald Trump is considering an executive order that could increase scrutiny of NIL payments and the future of college athletics. The Wall Street Journal reported Saban introduced Trump ahead of yesterday's commencement address in Tuscaloosa, and they met with each other. Took place last night. Saban expressed concern about the amount of NIL money in the college sports landscape. Saban said he thought it was damaging college athletics. Trump agreed and said he would consider drafting an order telling aides to start studying what that could look like. He also goes on here. Saban's point was more about reforming NIL, the Wall Street Journal said, and creating more of an even playing field. That echoes similar comments he made publicly about the need for competitive balance as the space continues to shift.
Okay, so clearly, I think most of us have believed that if schools truly had money, that it would be good for players to get some money. I don't think anybody has particularly argued that point. But my gut feeling and my common sense here tells me that what you all were thinking and what I was thinking was stuff like perhaps $25,000 a player on a football team, not $2.4 million. And so you sit there and you say, well, why can't you cap it?
Yeah.
Well, if you remember back when we had Tony Barnhart in town a couple of years ago and we did that big panel discussion here at the Ford Ice Center, he admitted that from what he knew, the courts would shoot that down as a restraint of trade. And this might be one area where Trump could be of some help. The judges, the people sitting listening to this stuff have shown absolutely no common sense whatsoever.
Well, I don't want to get into politics, but these two guys that are working on that, I don't know anybody better. Donald Trump, Nick Saban. I mean, we know about Nick Saban. He's worked his butt off, whether it's just talking about it, having meetings. He spoke in front of Congress about regulation. Obviously, the NCAA has taken the trips to Capitol Hill. Nothing's come of that. So, I mean, does it take Saban and Trump to fix college sports? I don't know when it would happen or what would happen, but
well, it's really interesting. First of all, I didn't know that Trump was, I guess, the commencement speaker at Alabama.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the security that was there for that? And so it was also interesting that Nick Saban was the person selected to introduce him.
Yeah.
Okay.
This means that they've talked prior to this. You
would think it would, but you would also think that it meant that Trump was smart enough to say, okay, while I'm down here, here's Saban, who is an absolute god in that area. Maybe I need to sit down and talk to him and see what he thinks.
Yeah, I do wonder who instigated that. Was it somebody in the administration at Alabama? Was it Saban himself? Was it Trump? I mean, whoever did that, maybe it was just both of them together. And credit to them, but still, nothing's happened, and we don't know when something's going to happen.
No,
that's
and look,
the thing. But this is not a bad start.
Okay, so go back to near the beginning of the article where he says, I'm going to have them draft, let's see, and said he would consider drafting an order telling aides to start studying what that could look like.
I mean, that sounds like he's getting going on it. Like, they're not.
I don't really know what that means.
Yeah.
Because under the considering an executive order that could increase scrutiny. Okay, so that would be, how are these payments being made? Are they being made legally? Are they being taxed properly? To me, maybe it's just the wording that I see in this article, but it's more we got to get the level of spending under control. That's the issue to me.
That's the bottom line. There's too much money being thrown around to these kids. I mean, we saw the numbers with Nico. He was at 2.5. Now he's not anywhere near that. But look at Carson Beck being reported at $3 million at Miami. There's players upwards of $4 million. I mean,
yeah.
Where does it stop anywhere?
Don't know. This is an interesting story. It may not be worth a hill of beans, but then again, it may be the beginning of something. Only time will tell.
Yeah, I have a feeling a lot of the morning shows that miss this, they'll be talking about it on
probably on Monday.
First thing Monday. Yep.
By the way, on Monday, Barry Trotz will address the Nashville sports media. At that time, it's expected that he will announce that Andrew Burnett is being retained. This will not be a particularly popular decision among Preds fans. So with that in mind, on Monday, Mark McGee will join us with reaction at 3:20. And then Preds television play-by-play voice Willie Donick will be with us at 4. And somewhere in there, we will let you hear some of what goes on at that press conference. We'll go to our final break, Plaster Bet of the Day, on 94.9 The Fan.
Hey, this is Andrew Allegretta, voice of Vanderbilt baseball. Hope you can join us all weekend long from Hawkins Field. It's a massive SEC showdown. Number 15 Vanderbilt, number 18 Alabama. All 3 games starting on Friday. 102.5 The Game.
Vanderbilt Athletics lives here on the Game Nashville Sports Network.
Get ready, race fans. NASCAR is back in Music City with a new name, the Cracker Barrel 400. Guitars, fast cars, and the comfort of Cracker Barrel's country hospitality. May 30th through June 1st. The action kicks off Friday night at Nashville Super Speedway with the Rackley Roofing 200. Then the Tennessee Lottery 250 on Saturday. And Sunday night, NASCAR's top stars under the lights in the Cracker Barrel 400. Get your tickets now at NashvilleSuperspeedway.com.
You enjoy the thrill of gambling, but what happens when it becomes a problem? Whether you want to cut back or quit gambling altogether, the Gambling Clinic has been helping people change their gambling for over 2 decades. We're here to help, not to judge. The Gambling Clinic is a Tennessee-based clinic offering in-person and telehealth support to help people win back their life. Visit us at thegamblingclinic.com. This project is funded by the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. Brought to you by the Gambling Clinic, the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Got a big one in the NBA tonight. The Warriors and the Rockets. Game 6. Got, what's the NHL game?
The Blues at home against Winnipeg.
And I think that's where we'll be going. Of Plaster's Bet of the Day, brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law. We take a look at last night.
Disaster.
Ottawa, loss. Minnesota,
lost.
Edmonton,
which we booked.
And won.
Yes.
Got one at least.
Yeah, so we're having some problems right now. We're now 6 under 500, 77 and 83. I'm taking the Blues tonight at home in a series where St. Louis has been very competitive, but has not been able to break through in Winnipeg. At least for tonight, they don't have to worry about that. They're at home. I'm going to take them. They're a slight dog, and that's how we're going to play it out. As I look outside, things look a lot better. Looks like the rain has moved through the Bellevue area. The Vandy game against Alabama tonight has been pushed back to 7:30, and it appears that decision is going to end up being a smart one. Anyway, we're done. Come back and join us Monday. Tell 10,000 of your closest friends. We're on 94.9 The Fan, and we'll be back on Monday.